Space is vast. It's infinite, awe-inspiring, and full of rules. Rules that humanity, as a new addition to the galactic community, hadn't yet learned to follow. The Galactic Harmony Festival was one such rule, a strictly controlled celebration of peaceful, elegant music designed to foster unity among the galaxy's species. For centuries, it had been a highlight of cultural diplomacy. Enter humans. The Galactic Harmony Festival was hosted this year on Ravinaris Prime, a breathtaking world of towering crystal spires and cascading blue waterfalls. Delegates from all corners of the galaxy arrived, their ships dotting the sky like fireflies. Each species brought their finest musicians, prepared to offer performances steeped in tradition and sophistication. Humanity's inclusion in the festival had been a matter of polite controversy. Do we really need the Deathworlders participating? An insectoid delegate from Vixaltha Prime had muttered during the planning meeting. They'll ruin the atmosphere with their primitive noise. Still, the humans were invited, mostly as a diplomatic gesture. The Galactic Council was curious to see what Earth, with its peculiar culture, would contribute. Griffin Kane, the human delegate for the arts, stood awkwardly in the festival's amphitheater, surrounded by alien performers who looked like walking symphonies. There were crystalline beings that resonated like wind chimes, feathered creatures whose songs mimicked the rustling of trees, and gelatinous blobs that vibrated to produce ethereal hums. Then there was Griffin, wearing a plain suit, holding a datapad containing Earth's musical submissions. We've prepared a variety of genres, Griffin began, glancing nervously at the skeptical audience of aliens. We've got classical symphonies, some jazz, folk songs. Oh, and one genre we like to call heavy metal. The amphitheater went silent. Did he say metal? An amphibian delegate whispered. Griffin cleared his throat. Yeah, it's kind of intense. Maybe we'll save that one for later. The festival began, and alien musicians took the stage one by one, performing their delicate harmonies and ambient soundscapes. The audience was enraptured, basking in the serene melodies. When it was humanity's turn, Griffin started with a safe choice, Beethoven's Symphony No. 9. The crystalline beings hummed appreciatively. The amphibians nodded along. The gelatinous blobs wobbled in rhythm. Humanity had passed the first test. Next came jazz. A saxophonist dazzled the crowd with an improvised solo, earning murmurs of approval. Griffin was beginning to relax when a feathered alien leaned over and whispered, "This is lovely, but is it true your species also makes chaotic music?" Griffin froze. Chaotic? Yes, the alien said, their feathers ruffling nervously. Something about metal. Griffin hesitated. He'd been explicitly told by Earth's diplomats to keep it tame. But something about the alien's tone, condescending, dismissive, struck a nerve. Yeah, Griffin said, his voice sharpening. We have metal. Want to hear it? A stage was hastily prepared for humanity's final act. The alien musicians gathered in the wings, curious and apprehensive. Griffin introduced the performers, a 5-piece human band dressed in black leather, armed with electric guitars, a drum kit, and a microphone. We call this heavy metal, Griffin announced, and this one's called Wrath of the Forge. The opening riff hit like a thunderclap. The amphitheater shook as the guitars roared, the drums thundered, and the vocalist growled into the microphone. The human musicians head-banged in perfect unison, their energy electric and raw. The alien audience reacted immediately and hilariously. The crystalline beings vibrated uncontrollably, emitting high-pitched chimes that sounded like panic alarms. The amphibians dove under their seats, their membranes flashing warning colors. The gelatinous blobs began quivering at an alarming speed, creating ripples across their surfaces. One insectoid alien fainted, their legs curling up dramatically. As the song ended with a screaming guitar solo, the amphitheater erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, some demanding the humans stop immediately, others yelling for an encore. "This is barbaric," an amphibian delegate screeched, clutching their chest. "How can you call this music?" Griffin smirked. "It's not just music. It's emotion, passion, chaos. Welcome to heavy metal." One young crystalline alien, still vibrating from the performance, leaned forward. "Can we hear it again?" Griffin left the stage as the festival erupted into debate. Some species wanted the genre banned, calling it a dangerous influence. Others were intrigued, sensing its potential for rebellion and inspiration. Griffin, sipping a bottle of water backstage, couldn't help but grin. Humanity hadn't just introduced a new sound, they'd lit a fire under the galaxy. Backstage at the Galactic Harmony Festival, Griffin Kane sipped his water and waited for the storm to pass. It wasn't long before a crystalline alien delegate barged in, their translucent body vibrating with visible agitation. "What have you done?" the alien shrieked, their voice ringing like shattered glass. Griffin looked up, feigning innocence. "Played a little music. Too loud for you." "This is an outrage. Your metal has destabilized several members of the audience." The crystalline being gestured wildly toward the amphitheater, where gelatinous blobs were still wobbling uncontrollably and insectoids were attempting to resuscitate their fainted comrade. Griffin smirked. "Well, art is supposed to move people." "This isn't art," the alien snapped. "This is chaos." But not everyone agreed. As Griffin stepped out onto the festival grounds, he noticed a small group of younger aliens waiting for him. One crystalline being, barely out of their adolescent phase, judging by their smaller frame, approached him cautiously. "Excuse me, human," they said, their voice trembling slightly. "That was incredible." Griffin raised an eyebrow. "You liked it?" "It was unlike anything I've ever felt. It was raw, powerful." Real behind the crystalline being, a feathered alien nodded eagerly. "Your music, it speaks to something primal. I think I understand why humans are so resilient." Griffin's smirk widened. "Glad you enjoyed the show. There's plenty more where that came from." Word spread quickly throughout the festival. By the next day, the human band found themselves mobbed by curious aliens asking about this strange new genre. Some wanted to know how the instruments worked. Others begged for recordings. A few even tried to imitate the growling vocals, with varying degrees of success. "This is bigger than we thought," Griffin muttered to one of the band members as they navigated the growing crowd. "Yeah," the drummer replied, grinning, "and I love it." Of course, not everyone was thrilled. The Galactic Council convened an emergency meeting to discuss the threat posed by heavy metal. "This noise is spreading like a plague," bellowed a reptilian counselor from Zorath Prime. "It's disrupting our cultural balance and causing widespread unrest." "Unrest?" an amphibian delegate chimed in. "It's outright dangerous. My species relies on stable heart rhythms, and this metal nearly gave me an arrhythmia." The arguments raged on, but not all council members were opposed. A crystalline counselor raised a hand, their tone measured. "Perhaps we should consider the cultural significance of this metal. It is unlike anything we have encountered. There may be value in understanding it." The room erupted into chaos again, with one side calling for a ban and the other defending humanity's right to share its culture. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the sudden galactic obsession with heavy metal had caught the attention of military officials. "I've seen the reports," General Adams said, leaning back in his chair. "Aliens are losing their minds over this stuff." "They're not used to anything this intense," a cultural analyst replied. "Their music is all about harmony and balance. Metal flips that on its head. It's raw, unpredictable, and it's having physiological effects on some species." General Adams grinned. "You're telling me we've accidentally discovered a psychological weapon?" The analyst hesitated. "It's not technically a weapon, sir. It's just music." "Sure," Adams said, still grinning. "Just music." It wasn't long before the first field test occurred. During a standoff between a human mining crew and a group of alien pirates, the humans played Wrath of the Forge over their comms system. The results were immediate. The pirates panicked, their sensitive hearing overwhelmed by the pounding drums and growling vocals. Within minutes, they fled, leaving their loot behind. "This is incredible," Griffin said when he heard the news. "Metal isn't just music, it's a force of nature." Back at the festival, heavy metal continued to divide the galaxy. While some species banned it outright, others embraced it wholeheartedly. Metal-themed subcultures began emerging on alien worlds, with young aliens dyeing their scales, feathers, or fur in dark, dramatic colors. On Vixaltha Prime, insectoid youths formed the galaxy's first non-human metal band, using their natural clicking sounds as percussion. On Ravenaris Prime, crystalline beings began experimenting with amplifying their natural vibrations to mimic guitar riffs. Even the gelatinous blobs joined in, creating eerie, guttural growls that paired perfectly with human drumming. The Galactic Harmony Festival was officially over, but the chaos it sparked was just beginning. Humanity's heavy metal had become a cultural revolution, and not everyone was ready for it. As Griffin watched the alien fans crowding around the human band, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. "Guess they'll think twice before calling us primitive again," he said, raising his bottle of water in a mock toast. But he had no idea just how far the ripples of their performance would spread. On the distant planet Zorath Prime, the fallout from the Galactic Harmony Festival took an unexpected turn. A group of reptilian youths, frustrated by their elders' rigid traditions, discovered human heavy metal through the galactic network. They began blaring earth bands like Metallic Tempest and Iron Forge in public squares, their scaled heads bobbing in rhythm. It didn't take long for their rebellion to grow. Within weeks, cities across Zorath Prime were filled with young Zorathians, embracing the chaos and energy of metal. Their elders were horrified. "This is an attack on our culture," roared High Counselor Zarath during a broadcast. "This noise is corrupting our youth." But the youth didn't care. For the first time in centuries, they felt alive. The phenomenon wasn't limited to Zorath Prime. Across the galaxy, alien youth embraced metal as a symbol of rebellion and freedom. On Ravenaris Prime, crystalline beings began forming their own bands, using their natural vibrations to mimic earth guitars. Insectoid drummers on Vixaltha Prime perfected polyrhythms that pushed human drummers to their limits. Even the gelatinous blobs found their groove, incorporating guttural growls that left humans impressed. "It's like watching the galaxy reinvent itself," Griffin Kane said during an interview. "Metal isn't just music, it's a movement." The Galactic Union's military forces weren't blind to the power of heavy metal. After the incident with the alien pirates, the Union began experimenting with using Earth music as a psychological tool. In one particularly notable test, a human battleship deployed Iron Forge's Raging Inferno during a skirmish with a hostile fleet. The deafening riffs and pounding drums caused chaos among the enemy ranks, disrupting their coordination and forcing a retreat. "This isn't just music," said General Varick of the Galactic Union. "It's a weapon of mass disruption." Not everyone was pleased with this development. The Galactic Council convened yet another emergency meeting to discuss the threat posed by heavy metal. "This metal has gone too far," bellowed Councillor Zarath, his scales flashing with agitation. "It is corrupting our youth, destabilizing our cultures, and now it's being used in warfare." "And yet," countered Councillor Lyrics, a crystalline being, "it is also bringing species together in ways we've never seen. Have you considered that perhaps we are the ones who need to adapt?" The debate raged on, but the council was hopelessly divided. Meanwhile, outside the council chambers, metal-loving aliens staged protests, their chants blending with distorted guitar riffs. As the council struggled to contain the chaos, a new threat emerged. The Shaxar swarm, a nomadic species of hive-mind predators, began invading Galactic Union territories. Known for their psychological warfare, the Shaxar thrived on fear and chaos. The Galactic Union scrambled to respond, but the Shaxar's tactics left them paralyzed. Every fleet sent to combat the swarm returned broken, their crews too demoralized to fight. Desperate, the Union turned to humanity. "Let me get this straight," Griffin Kane said. sitting across from the Galactic Union's military leaders. "You want to fight a hive-mind species using music?" General Varick nodded grimly. "The Shaiksar feed on fear and mental instability. Your metal seems to have the opposite effect on most species. It inspires resilience, unity, and defiance. We believe it may disrupt their hive-mind communication." Griffin leaned back, a grin spreading across his face. "So you need a band of humans to save the galaxy. Metalheads everywhere are gonna love this." The battle against the Shaiksar took place in orbit around Veltrax 9, a lifeless planet surrounded by the swarm's ships. The Galactic Union deployed their forces alongside a human flagship retrofitted with the most powerful sound system in the galaxy. As the Shaiksar ships closed in, the human band began to play. The opening riff of Wrath of the Forge blasted through space, amplified by the ship's speakers. The sound waves rippled outward, crashing against the Shaiksar fleet like a tidal wave. The effect was immediate. The Shaiksar ships faltered, their movements erratic as the hive mind struggled to process the sensory overload. "Turn it up!" Griffin shouted from the command deck. The band obliged, launching into a thunderous drum solo that sent shockwaves through the battlefield. Galactic Union ships rallied, their crews emboldened by the defiant energy of the music. Even the most hesitant alien soldiers found themselves shouting battle cries in time with the rhythm. The Shaiksar fleet broke apart, their ships retreating into the void. The Galactic Union had won, not through superior firepower, but through the unrelenting chaos of heavy metal. As the human flagship returned to the Union's capital, it was met with cheers and celebrations. Griffin Kane and the band were hailed as heroes, their music immortalized as a symbol of unity and defiance. Heavy metal was no longer just a human genre. It had become a galactic phenomenon, uniting species across the stars. And as Griffin watched the galaxy embrace Earth's chaotic energy, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. "Not bad for a bunch of Deathworlders," he said, raising a toast to the band. But even he knew this was just the beginning. The victory over the Shaiksar swarm sent ripples across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Union had achieved the impossible, not through brute force or calculated diplomacy, but by embracing the raw, chaotic energy of humanity's music. Heavy metal wasn't just music anymore. It was a symbol, a rallying cry, a force that transcended species and boundaries. Across the galaxy, alien cultures began adopting and adapting the genre, each putting their own spin on Earth's primal sound. On Zorath Prime, the rebellious youth who had first embraced heavy metal now led the charge to incorporate it into their official cultural celebrations. The rigid traditions of their elders were shattered by roaring guitars and growling vocals. On Ravinaris Prime, crystalline beings became masterful creators of haunting, ethereal metal, their natural vibrations harmonizing with human instruments to produce otherworldly sounds. Even the gelatinous blobs of Glarin 5 found their place, creating deep, guttural bass lines that added a unique intensity to the genre. Bands from Earth began touring alien worlds, performing to sold-out crowds. Each concert was a spectacle, blending human and alien talent to create music that could shake entire starships. The Galactic Harmony Council, which had once debated banning heavy metal, found itself in an awkward position. While traditionalists still railed against the genre, the overwhelming popularity of metal made it impossible to suppress. "Metal has proven to be divisive," said Councillor Zarath during a public address, his tone grudging. "But it has also united us in ways we never thought possible. Therefore, the Council officially recognizes heavy metal as a legitimate art form." The decision was met with cheers across the galaxy and a thunderous guitar solo from a nearby human band. To celebrate the newfound unity, the Galactic Union organized a massive concert on Veltrax 9, the site of the Shaiksar swarm's defeat. The event drew billions of viewers from across the galaxy, both in person and via holographic streams. The stage was a marvel of engineering, blending human and alien designs. Towering speakers, shimmering lights, and holographic projections created a spectacle unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Griffin Kane took the stage alongside Earth's most iconic metal band, Iron Forge. With them were alien musicians representing dozens of species, each bringing their unique sound to the collaboration. "This one's for the galaxy," Griffin said into the mic, his voice echoing across the venue. "Let's make some noise." The opening riff of Unity Through Chaos roared to life, a collaborative anthem that blended Earth's raw power with the intricate harmonies of alien cultures. The crowd erupted, their voices and vibrations forming a symphony of celebration. In the years that followed, heavy metal became more than just a genre. It was a cultural movement, a symbol of resilience and individuality. Alien bands rose to prominence, some even rivaling Earth's greatest performers. But humanity remained at the heart of it all. Their ability to channel raw emotion into art had forever changed the galaxy, proving that chaos and harmony could coexist and thrive. Griffin Kane stood on the observation deck of a starship, watching as Veltrax 9 faded into the distance. Beside him, an alien musician, a crystalline being named Lyrics, spoke softly. "You humans, you turned chaos into something beautiful, something that brought us all together." Griffin chuckled, sipping his drink. "That's what we do. Take the mess and make something out of it. Call it stubbornness, call it creativity, call it whatever you want. But it works." Lyrics nodded. "It does. And for that, the galaxy owes you more than we can ever repay." Griffin smiled, his gaze fixed on the stars. "Just remember that the next time someone calls us primitive." Years later, the Galactic Harmony Festival returned, now a more inclusive and vibrant event. Its centerpiece was the Galactic Anthem, a piece composed by humans and aliens working together. The anthem began with the raw, powerful riffs of heavy metal before transitioning into harmonious melodies that blended the styles of every species. As the final notes echoed across the amphitheater, the audience rose in a standing ovation. For the first time in galactic history, the music truly represented everyone. And at its heart was humanity, chaotic, resilient, and unforgettable.